Mitsuki Sage Mode, broken as hell. I already feel bad for our enemies. Our enemies in the future. Enemies we haven't even been introduced to yet. They're gonna underestimate Mitsuki like some weird, skinny-looking white twink, and they're gonna get devoured. That's Sage Mode, the speed. I mean, Orochimaru and Log, obviously, if they actually fought seriously, I think Mitsuki would be put down in Sage Mode, but listen, Orochimaru doesn't even have Sage Mode. He doesn't even have those high levels of Senjutsu, but his experiments do. And this episode feels so weird because you're actually staring into Mitsuki's older self at certain scenes. You know, when Log basically took off his mask, when Log took off his mask, we're actually looking at an older Mitsuki. That's how Mitsuki's gonna look in the Boruto series when he gets older. We're actually looking into the future in this special, so that's what I really love, and my expectations were met. They were met this week. I mean, I was a little bit scared because they've been pushing it off for a while. I mean, there was a point where I thought we might not even get this one-shot adaptation. Sometime down the line, I figured they would bring up his backstory, but they could have done it anyway, right? They could have maybe given us a short little flashback in crappy animation. That's not what happened this week. In fact, the pacing was really good. One episode covered the whole thing, and it was really well done. I mean, the fight scene between Orochimaru and Log was crazy. Honestly, like, that reminded me of the Obito versus Kakashi action sequences. It looked that beautiful. You've got swordplay, you've got some nice taijutsu, you've got snakes coming up out of booty holes, like, you've got some pretty cool stuff, and they were just chasing each other down. I mean, if it got serious enough between Orochimaru and Log, obviously, Orochimaru's gonna win because he literally created Log, right? The creation cannot be superior to the creator. All of this reminded me of how crazy skilled Orochimaru is, and it's sad that we're probably not gonna see him in action like this because there's really no reason to have Orochimaru in action like this anymore. He's not a villain anymore like he was in part 1. He's like the most traitorous dude of all time if you really think about it, because like Madara, you know, he was kind of manipulated by this story that was fake and it was all Black Zetsu's plan. Orochimaru is just a straight up scumbag without the brainwashing, at least from what we know of him. He's just a freak. And even though his poison didn't pierce Log the first time around, them fangs could not break through that armor. Eventually, he slipped one little one in that was able to poison Log, despite the fact that Log melted his armor and basically trapped Orochimaru in this like black substance. You know, the fight was just crazy. You know, these abilities, these techniques are S-rank abilities, all of them, like, on display. And that's the reason why Mitsuki is so skilled, because he's a synthetic freaking human created by Orochimaru with all these S-rank techniques. He has S-rank techniques himself, and he was psychologically abused to be a tool. Like, here's the thing, man. This episode is about Mitsuki reaching his independence. Orochimaru's goal with Mitsuki, like, after many different attempts, Mitsuki constantly, you know, either chose Orochimaru or Log, and that's why he was given that drug to basically have no memories. He's like this clean slate that could possibly end up choosing his independence. This dude's getting in the head. Alright, and I know Orochimaru has a scientific background, so that's the excuse behind him doing all this. Orochimaru violated this dude with this entire situation, alright? His footprint is all over his experiments. That's just the case, and the thing is like, even though Mitsuki chose his own independence, he's still affected by all the things that Orochimaru did to him, and you could say, well, it was in preparation so that Mitsuki could become a solid ninja tool that could basically help Boruto out, Sarada out, all of the next generation, you know. Very, very big asset to the Hidden Leaf Village when Orochimaru did a lot of damage, so I guess he owes him one, right? It's a good thing that Mitsuki went to the Hidden Leaf Village. But like, dropping Sage Mode, high levels of Senjutsu like that on this kid, you know, when he doesn't know who he is and you're giving him these drugs and he's constantly forgetting who he is, this dude could easily, very easily be triggered in the opposite direction because he's so malleable. He's so malleable still. So that's where I have to say, like, this episode was dope. It was cool. The situation's messed up still. It's unethical. What do you think? Orochimaru and the older Mitsuki constantly drugging up this younger Mitsuki so that he could eventually choose his independence? Do you think that's right? No, you know, Mitsuki should have normal parents, should have a normal family. Hey, Orochimaru, are you my mother or father? Orochimaru responds, That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No, it does matter because there's the normal childhood development, like that's something that was stolen from Mitsuki. Like that ain't a thing in Mitsuki's life. He has no reference point to all that stuff. Now the strict character design of Mitsuki's Sage Mode is insane. It looks a lot better than Jugo's, than Kabuto's, than just about everybody's Sage Mode. I mean, a lot of people got the colorings down because initially we only got the manga, and a lot of people colored it purple. But it's not purple, it's actually cyan green. Now that the anime's out, we have that information. He just looks demonic. He's got those dark patches around his eyes. He's got those snakes, and he was just shattering the ground like... I mean, honestly, it's scary. It's scary because I'm wondering what Log's true powers are, being an older Mitsuki. He probably has some version of the Sage Mode himself. And of course, Mitsuki, as he gets older, his Sage Mode, his Senjutsu levels will increase. And one of the biggest complaints I hear about the Boruto series is it's boring because Mitsuki is on our team with an ability like this. It's as if, Sasuke had Mangekyo Sharingan during the Land of Wave saga. The threat, the fear that we're going to lose, the fear that our characters are going to die in battle is very low. I totally get that. He was dashing so fast, Orochimaru didn't even notice that the scroll and the key were missing, right? He was just like, whoa. And he just straight up broke through that barrier. Mitsuki, if he is angry and he is confused, that's going to be the trigger for the Sage Mode. Now, very little is probably going to do that to Mitsuki. At the moment, the only thing that I can think of, and this is going to be their excuse behind Mitsuki not using Sage Mode when he's younger, or when he's, still growing, still getting with his classmates, we're probably going to see it for the first time when he's almost jonin. And the reason I say that is because it's going to take a lot to trigger Mitsuki into that state. He's very calm all the time, very nonchalant, like everything is going okay. I can see something going wrong with Boruto, and that triggers Mitsuki because now you're messing with this character's purpose. You see, what made Mitsuki go Sage Mode in this episode is he just kept questioning his purpose. And you had this entire situation being concocted by Orochimaru in the sense that it was all set up. There's no evil guy named Law with a mask that's, that ran away from him. Nothing's like that. They're both in on it. Obviously, all of these guys are Orochimaru's experiments, but they're trying to have, Mitsuki gain his independence. They're trying to trigger Sage Mode out of this younger Mitsuki. And it took a lot of mental pollution from the both of them, as Log nearly killed Mitsuki when he beat Orochimaru in that fight. Orochimaru saved him, but then Orochimaru went to look for something conveniently. And you've got Log telling Mitsuki to take off his mask because while he is poisoned and he can't move himself, he was able to, I'm guessing, just move his mouth and talk. And he asked Mitsuki to take the mask off. And he basically made up this story about how, he escaped with the seed. He escaped with the semen seed, and now only he could end the cycle. He could stop more Mitsukis from being created because it's not fair. Every single Mitsuki deserves a normal upbringing. Synthetic humans and experimentation's wrong. So that's Log's side of the story. And Orochimaru just comes with a simple like, I love you, Mitsuki, you're my child, I would never, betray you, you don't have to be a real human being in order to have a good life, shape your own destiny, I'll be there for you, I'm your daddy. That's what Orochimaru was pushing out there, right? And it was just these two ideas in Mitsuki's head, constantly the both of them just, spewing BS that forced Mitsuki to be like, you know what? Both of you, I'm going my own way. And when he did, again, that final scene in this episode, super beautiful. Honestly, it broke my expectations. There were certain instances in this episode that did, like the fighting scenes, but that end definitely did. I mean, the colors, you got Mitsuki there outside, staring at the moon. Oh my god. Honestly, if every single Boruto episode were on this quality, I think none of us would be forgetting that Boruto be coming out, period, and all of us would be looking forward to every single episode in the same way that we do to Dragon Ball Super or any other anime that's out right now. But yeah, I totally get where people feel like Mitsuki is broken. You got Suigetsu just again telling him bullshit, like, Orochimaru had to carry you back to the hideout, baby. Don't you remember? Don't you remember? Here, drink more drugs. And, you know, his reaction time, he basically dodged a kunai from Suigetsu like nothing, using body modification. He had him like there with the kunai. Obviously, Suigetsu got away, and he didn't actually have the intention of killing Mitsuki, but that reaction time was something else, and he wasn't even in Sage mode. So I'm wondering if that Senjutsu on a more basic level is just higher. Like, Mitsuki got higher, you know, reaction time and stats in that sense in the sensory department versus a lot of his other peers. I mean, I think it's pretty much obvious at this point. And he could do things that even Orochimaru has problems doing because he was programmed to do those things based off of Orochimaru knowing his own flaws. Plus, he's basically, you know, I mean, he's basically a battle tool. You know, Orochimaru wants to act like, oh, he's independent. He has no Orochimaru footprint. Bro, he's the first, like, straight up, like, hidden, you know, sound ninja, like, straight up born from the hidden sound village. What do you mean? It's not really even a village. I mean, the only reason it exists is because Orochimaru's curiosity could not be contained by any of the 5 Great Lands. They wouldn't let him go about his human experimentation. Actually, some of the villages probably would, but he wasn't interested in just being a part of the village, especially because he was salty that he didn't get selected as Hokage, and he knows that all these different villages are just trying to go to war with each other, so he's like, you know what? Let me just be a recluse. Let me go somewhere far away and, you know, create a little network of, like, laboratories and bases where I could just mess with human life. And Mitsuki is literally the product of that. So, you know, if you think about the hidden sound village as a human being, just think Mitsuki, because that's who Mitsuki is. Mitsuki is an experiment. Orochimaru created the Hidden Sound Village to pretty much do experiments. I am very satisfied with this Mitsuki one-shot adaptation. What do you guys think about Mitsuki now that you know his history, where he comes from? It's still really, like, it's still messed up. It's like a human experiment, you know? He doesn't really even have a background if you think about it, and his background's Orochimaru's semen mixing. And, of course, I can't stress this enough, but the fight scene between Log and Mitsuki, ugh. That Sage mode at the end, alright, there's some really solid moments in this episode, and I am especially jealous of people who have not read the actual material because they're going into this for the first time.